Last week, we finally broke out of our slump and found a winning week with our picks going 5-1 against the spread, taking us up to 18-17 on the year. It's time to try to do it all again with our 5 picks, including the Red River rivalry, our one big game of the week. Off we go. Picks of the week. Stanford -10 versus Oregon. We won picking against both these teams a week ago, and while Stanford barely beat Utah by 3 points, giving us our win, Oregon's 23-point home loss to Washington State was the more noteworthy result. Oregon's lost their starting quarterback and it showed. They also haven't played the toughest schedule and might not be very good after all. Stanford, on its end, seems to be rolling at the right time, playing the style of football that's allowed them to be a top program over the past decade. The Cardinals' running back Bryce Love is a legitimate Heisman candidate who's been otherworldly at times this season. He'll be an issue for the Ducks' defense, who have been good against the run so far, but haven't been tested by anything close to Love or Stanford's line so far. Stanford's always been Oregon's toughest opponent, even when the Ducks were Pac-12 contenders, serving up several blowouts. I expect this Saturday to be that kind of week. TCU -6 at Kansas State. Remember when the Wildcats were ranked in the first couple weeks of the year? A lot has changed since then. TCU has been a very profitable team for us so far this year, though an away game to Manhattan is never easy. KSU's issue is that they're just not putting up enough points facing Power 5 competition. TCU's attack's been explosive so far, and their defense has played very well. With their coach, you can trust they won't take an away game like this lightly and try to make another statement. Anything less than a touchdown is just too generous to a good but outmatched Wildcats team. Georgia Tech +6 at Miami, Florida. The Hurricanes might have won for us last week in dramatic fashion against Florida State, barely covering the spread. Truth be told, Miami was a bit disappointing in that game, and the Yellow Jackets will present quite the test. Led by quarterback Taquin Marshall, Tech is tough to defend with their triple option attack. They're currently the second best rushing offense in the country with 396 yards per game, and their defense is only allowing 19 points per contest. The Canes have looked good defensively this year, but the opposition they've faced is questionable. The Yellow Jackets have made lots of good defenses look bad through the years, and this feels like one of those games. Miami just seems poised to shoot themselves in the foot, and doing so this week at home makes a lot of sense. Give us the points in the Yellow Jackets. Navy +3.5 at Memphis. Here's another triple option attack with a quarterback in Zachary that's really playing lights out. That'll make this a really exciting game against the Tigers' explosive, yet erratic, offense that's already given us a good dose of entertainment this year. What makes Navy a clear-cut pick in this one is their record against Memphis in their most recent encounters, where the Midshipmen are 2-0 the last 2 years, having won by a cumulative 39 points. This Navy team is as good, if not better than either of those teams. I'm not sure you can say the same about these Tigers, who are very erratic. The Tigers are just too weak defensively, where they're allowing the 111th most points and 94th most rushing yards per game, 187. Against a Navy team that's putting up 414 yards on the ground per contest, that'll be an issue. The Tigers are just too weak defensively, where they're allowing the 111th most points and 94th most rushing yards per game, 187. Against a Navy team that's averaging 414 yards on the ground, that'll be an issue. Big game hunting. Texas +9 against Oklahoma. There aren't many high-profile head-to-head matchups going on into this week's slate, but we do have the Red River rivalry, and we just can't ignore a game like that. The best betting advice you can get: expect surprises, as Texas has shown up the last 2 years despite being a pretty depleted team. They're not all that better this year, but they are making strides, particularly on the offensive end. Oklahoma's offense should scare you, no doubt, but their play's been underwhelming after their early season win at Ohio State, particularly since they've entered conference play. Being upset by Iowa State last week is only the latest example, though beating Baylor by only 8 points should have already raised some eyebrows. Outside of QB Baker Mayfield, the offense hasn't looked all that dynamic at the other playmaking positions, and against this feisty Texas team that should keep things interesting. The Longhorns have already played a hard schedule, and unlike the Sooners have looked better with the start of the Big 12 season. Of course, anything can happen, but expect Texas to throw the kitchen sink at the Sooners in this one.